All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning, and a Shavua Tov. Should be a good week, a healthy week, and a happy week, and we should hear only good news, and we should take revenge from all of our enemies, and that there shouldn't be any enemies. Just an interesting thing. I mean, I noticed in the prayers in the morning, and every morning we say the what's called the Akedah. The Akedah is an essential part of Jewish prayer books. And it is the story of how Abraham bound up his son Yitzchak to kill him, sacrifice him. And in the end, he didn't. He didn't. And right in the end, it says a very interesting thing. God promises Abraham and says, okay, don't do it. Don't do it. But because you wanted to do, you were willing to sacrifice your son for me, as therefore I'm giving you a big blessing. And what is the blessing here? It says like this. It says, um, oh, I swear by myself, because you did this thing and you did not withhold your son, your special son from me. So I will bless you. Your seed offspring will be very, very many, like the stars in the heaven and like the sand on the sea. And this is the part I wanted to get to. And your offspring will conquer, they will inherit the gates of their enemies. So in other words, all those people who are enemies against the Jews, as we will conquer them and take their portion. So it comes up from this that the more enemies, the better, because the more enemies we have, even though it's scary, who wants to have enemies? But here it doesn't say that your offspring will take over the whole world, or it'll take over everybody else, or you'll be the rulers. It says all of your enemies the land of all of your enemies, the gates of all your enemies, will be your possessions. So the more enemies you have, the better. Huh? Maybe that's what I thought. Okay, here we go. In any case, it's going to be good. And now it's not so good. At least we don't see how good it is. But soon it will be. Soon it will be. Another thing we see nowadays, by the way, is just how attitude is important. How attitude is important. I mean, that's been the problem of the Israeli government or army. We win all of our battles, we win all of our wars, and then we surrender. So I guess it won't be that way anymore. Let's go. So where did all this trouble start? It started with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. As soon as it was Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, there began anti-Semitism. And I guess that's why they're called anti-Semites, because from the name Shem. Shem was one of the sons of Noah. And the only ones that really he was the one that was blessed. And the only one that sort of carried on this blessing are the Jews. So it's not called anti-Judaism or it's called anti-Semitism. Because people don't want this blessing. Okay. So here we have a story. This story is also going to talk about all sorts of blessings over here. But let's start off, first of all. It says, these are the offspring of Yitzchak, the son of Abraham. Abraham gave birth to Yitzchak. And everybody asks, this seemingly is redundant. You can leave one of these sentences out. These are the offspring of Yitzchak, the son of Abraham. Abraham gave birth to Yitzchak. You could leave out the part of the son of Abraham. You could say these are the offspring of Yitzchak. Abraham gave birth to Yitzchak, and then Yitzchak gave birth to Yaakov, and then Yaakov. Okay, so what does it say? These are the offspring, these are the generations of Yitzchak, the son of Abraham. And then afterwards, and immediately, it says Abraham gave birth to Yitzchak. Why do you have to have it apparently repeated? That Yitzchak was the son of Abraham, huh? These are the generations of Yitzchak, the son of Abraham. Abraham gave birth to Yitzchak. Of course he did, if he's the son of it. Okay, so this is written in the Bible. Now, the Torah is not a history book, and the Torah is not even a religious book. Not only, I mean, the Torah certainly is a history book, and the Torah certainly is a religious book. There's no doubt about it. But the Torah is the book of life. It's written by the creator of the universe, and it's the only book in the world that was written by the creator of the universe. I don't think that even the other religions even claim such a thing. They all claim that there was an inspired person or an angel or something like that. Here we have a book, one whole book that was written by God, the creator of the universe. And not just that he created the universe, as we've said so many times, he's creating the universe right now. And not only is he creating the universe in general, he's creating all the little details, which means you and me. And the Torah is just telling us, is the manufacturer's instructions, he's telling us what to do with our life. So every word is vitally instructive and important. So what could possibly be the importance over here of repeating that Isaac was the son of Abraham and Abraham gave birth to Isaac? Well, why do we have to repeat it? Okay, ready? Here we go. It is written, there's a book which is called the Song of Songs. This book, which is called the Song of Songs, written by King Solomon, son of King David. King Solomon was the wisest person that ever lived. And he knew all the secrets. He knew what was going on. He was genuinely wise. It says that King Solomon was so wise that even the fools admitted that he was wiser than them. Because a fool is a person that thinks he's smarter than everybody else. And King Solomon was so smart, so wise, that even the fools, they admitted, okay, I'm smarter than everybody else, but not him. I got to admit, he's. So King Solomon, he wrote, Smolo, his left arm is under my head, and his right arm embraces me. This is talking about God embracing the Jewish people. His left arm, God has a left arm, he's got a right arm. What does that mean? Well, first of all, we see that we're created in God's image. So if you think that makes sense, so now we understand God is, like we said before, he's sort of like, the Wizard of Oz. You ever see the movie The Wizard of Oz? I remember when I was a little kid, I saw the movie The Wizard of Oz. Could be that it was a spoof on religion, could be. But anyway, the point of the movie is that there's this, a mystical, mythological figure called the Wizard of Oz, that he can do anything. He makes people smart, he makes people want. And finally, it comes out that he's just some guy sitting behind a veil, working all these levers and making this big impression on everybody. So that's what you can figure that religion is also. And you got a good point. But Judaism is not that. Judaism is not that. Judaism is saying that God is creating us all the time. And so God is not just bigger than us or greater than us. God is creating us. So God is not anything whatsoever like anything. God creates all being. He's creating all the time. But don't think like the Eastern religions do, that makes God very far away. God is infinitely, infinitely close to us, and he cares about it. That's the God of Israel. All the other religions sort of try to, they have other sort of options about how God is far away, and God only likes them, and God only likes people who believe like they do. God, in fact, of the matter is infinitely close to everybody. He's creating everybody, and he's enlivening everybody. But that's pretty intimate. But it's even more than that. God has a responsibility. God has a plan for everybody, which is probably the biggest gift that you could possibly give someone, is responsibility. The person feels important. Or the person realizes that he is important. So our job is to, first of all, realize how lucky we are that we're being created, and how even luckier we are that we have a purpose. We're talking about Jews and non-Jews. And when we do that, then we'll love God. We'll appreciate God. All right, someone gives you such gifts, you appreciate them. So it says that's what it means. God's left arm is under my head, and his right arm embraces me. The fact that God is enlivening me and he's creating me and that he's giving me the responsibilities and I'm important to him and God reacts to my prayers. God provides my needs. So we say God is a melech ozer. He helps us. We don't need anybody else. It's forbidden anybody else. You can't worship people or the angels or the son of God or the God's mother-in-law or something. You can't. Only God. God is creating us. There's nothing except for God. But we don't see it and we don't feel it. And that's called work. But we should know that God's left arm and his right arm are at work embracing us under our head. And we should reflect what God is doing to us accordingly. God's left arm, this is the level of Yitzchak, from below to above. God is elevating us from below to above. We'll see what this means. This is more like our responsibility to God. He's lifting us up from below to above. He's showing us that he cares. He wants us to do things from below to above. Ve'amino, and God's right arm, this is the level of Abraham. And Abraham is from above to below. Free gifts. Free gifts. Everything is free. God is giving us everything free, but he wants us to appreciate it. And so Abraham is that God is giving us everything. And he's creating us. And he's enlivening us. And he protects us. And he helps us. And he saves us. Melech, Ozer, Moshiach, Mogen, we say. God is a king that he helps us and he saves us and he protects us. We say this in our prayers 3 times a day. Melech, Ozer, Moshiach, that God protects us and he cares about us. That's Abraham. God gives us everything. You have eyeballs, God is giving it to you. You're listening to this, you have ears, God is giving it to you. Whatever you have is a gift from Abraham, from God. That was the first person to really realize this, and also to try to get other people to realize it. That was Abraham. That was one of the reasons that Abraham broke all the idols. He went around breaking people's idols, because people's worshiping idols means that they are showing their ingratitude to the Creator. Should be grateful to God. So that's Abraham. Abraham is love. God, that's God's right arm. And God's left arm, that's the aspect of Yitzchak, namely what God's giving us commands, the responsibility, obligations. We have to do things. We have to do more than just appreciating God. We have to make something. We have to change something. We have to change the world. That's Yitzchak. Okay, let's go. Midas Avram, this aspect of Abraham, and they brought this into the world. That Abraham, that you should appreciate God, and that Yitzchak, you should serve God. Of course, both of them appreciated God. They both served God, but the main aspect of Yitzchak was serving God, changing the world. And Abraham was more appreciating God. This Abraham is achnasat orchim. The main thing of Abraham was kindness, giving free food to guests, taking in guests. And Yitzchak, he was chofer be'eros. Yitzchak, he dug wells. Well, let's understand this. Hine kasiv, it is written via havta. There's a commandment in the Torah that you must love God, a commandment to love God. It's right after that sentence, the motto of Judaism. Listen, Jews, God is our God, God is one. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. The word listen really means to understand. And the word understand really means to contemplate. That's the commandment. Contemplate. Think about it, Jews. God is our God, and God is one. And then it says, ve'ahavta, and you will love. You will love God. Okay, but it's also a commandment. You must love God. It's a commandment to love God. Asher, there, at first glance, you cannot command someone to love something. Right? You can command someone to pretend, right? There's drama schools. You can go to drama school and you can learn how to simulate on stage or in the movies or whatever, and convince that you're genuine, how to get into the part, right? Sort of like hypnotize yourself, and you know what to watch out for, what your eyes should do, what your ears should do. how you should look, how you should feel, you should imagine yourself, and then but you're not really loving, right? In the plays, in Shakespeare's plays, right, there were just two actors. It wasn't Romeo really loved Juliet or Juliet loved them. They didn't love each other. They loved the money or they loved the attention, they loved the applause. But in order to do this, you had to pretend to love. Well, in Judaism, it doesn't work that way. If God commands us to love, it's not just to pretend we love God. Even though you might have to do that in order to truly come to love God. But the commandment is to have an emotional, genuine feeling of love only for God. How do you do that? How can you command someone to love something? Huh? Like in Russia, they commanded everybody to love Stalin. They had to love Stalin. And people didn't love it. They were afraid. Like they were afraid of it. But like, and they used to beat people. The whatever is the Baron would have somebody beaten, and then the person had to crawl on all fours and kiss the Baron's feet. Thank him for getting beaten, because you don't want to get beaten anymore. Here we're talking about genuine love, not just pretending. How do you do that? So it says like this. But who? It is like this. First of all, it says God is one. Okay. The point the Rebbe is going to make is like this. How can you command anyone to love God? And the answer is because God is lovable and God is valuable, and you just don't realize it. You just don't realize how incredibly precious and close God, and how much God cares for you individually. And that really the fact that you're alive and that you can see and you can hear, God is giving you all this. In fact, God is creating the whole entire world. That's the fact. But because we don't understand that fact and we're not aware of that fact, so it seems to us ridiculous. How can you command someone to love God? It doesn't make any sense. Right? How can you go? It's like a person who, let's say his foot loses feeling in his foot, becomes paralyzed. His leg becomes paralyzed, and he's totally paralyzed, and he's laying in the bed. He's covered by a sheet, and he sees a toe sticking out from the other end of the right. And there's a mosquito biting his toe, but he doesn't feel it. So someone says, "Hey, you should get rid of that mosquito because he's hurting you." I don't know what you're talking about. He's hurting you. He's drawing your blood from your toe. I don't know. I don't know. Because he doesn't feel it's his toe. He doesn't feel it's his. But as soon as he is aware, so they take off the blankets and they give him whatever it is, a massage or something, they touch a nerve, all of a sudden he has feeling, wow, it's my toe. There's a mosquito on my toe. Well, then he cares about it because he feels itself. But the same thing is with God. We don't feel, we're insensitive, we're paralyzed. We don't feel that God is creating us, or that God is enlivening us, or that God cares about us, or that God is enlivening the whole world. He's carrying the whole world. And there's nothing except for him. We don't feel that. But once we do, that's what it says, that God is one. What does it mean? If you think about it, what is God one? What does it mean that God is one? There's no comparison to God at all. There's nothing in the world that can possibly compare reality. We're talking about not size or quality or power. We're talking about nothing in the world as real. We didn't even know there's different levels of reality. Sort of, we do know that there's levels of reality because you go to sleep and you think that the dreams are real. And then when you wake up, you realize, whoa, it was just a dream. So that when you were dreaming, you thought that was real. And now you woke up, you realize that's not real. The fact of the matter is what we see when we're awake is also a lower level of reality than God's reality. But God's reality does not preclude our reality. But when you wake up from a dream, and you realize the whole thing didn't exist at all. But when we wake up, we see that everything does exist, but it exists on God's terms, not on our terms. And when you see that, then you realize there's no comparison to God at all. He's creating everything from nothing. Havaya Elokeinu, God is our God, and He's the God of our fathers. Shu Bechinas Tzimtzum, that says all these different levels are how God, so to speak, contracts His light and articulates it and conceals it and hides over it. This is levels of the God, a God of our fathers, the God of He's our. First of all, there's God, Yud Kei Vav Kei, and then He becomes our God in general, and then He becomes the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's even more detailed. This is the level of tzimtzum. Perish, she'itaveh b'chines avotenu. That God creates this level of our fathers. What's our fathers? We said before, his kindness, his power, his wisdom, his understanding. Like it says, Antu Chakim, God, you are wise with no known wisdom. Now, we learned about that last week. So it ends up that yes, God is totally one, but he's creating it. He's creating the world. So he's involved in all these details. So that sort of destroys our whole idea of what one is, right? You have all these Eastern religions, and they say that one, when you feel the oneness of God, then there's no world. You're just not here. Because, you don't want to get married. You don't have to. Don't get married. Don't have any money. No cars. No anything. No, right? You just sort of float around and. Because okay, the Ein Aroch Kalal. There's no comparison in regarding God's essence. So God creates all these different levels, which is his wisdom, his understanding. That's the 10 sefirot we talked about. Like it says, Anhu Chad. We said, God, you are wisdom, but no known wisdom. That's how God, so to speak, expresses himself, creates the world. But then it says, Anhu Chad, but you, God, it says that you, God, you are one. And therefore, Tzorech Kodam, have to have, first of all, the level of Elokeinu, our God. And our God, that's the level of Tzimtzum, our God. In other words, there's, first of all, God is one, and then he becomes ours. Then God has this way of limiting his light. And then afterwards, there's a lower level, Elokei, plural, Bechinas Vav, Velokei, I'm sorry, Vav, with the Vav. Vav means drawing down. Hamshacha Sheitavu Avotenu. Then you can, God creates this level of Avotenu, our fathers. So what are we saying? On one hand, God is totally incomparable to anything in the world, and his reality is true reality. But on the other hand, there's the world. So the world is a separate thing from God. He says, no, that's the whole point. That's what it means that God is one. The world is not separate from God. How does God do it? How does he do it? He says, well, this is a very big mystery, but that's what it says in the Bible, that God spoke. How can God speak? God has a mouth, he has tongue, he has a teeth. It says in the Kabbalistic books, it explains that these are all these levels which are before the creation. Like we say, God is a king before the world. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'Terem Kol Yitzori. God is a king before anything was created. How could he be a king if nothing was created yet? Who were you a king over? That was his potential to create the world. Okay, but this potential is not just something that he used thousands of years ago or billions of years ago in order to create the world. It's right now it's happening. This is the ability of God to create a world and to create time and to create us and to create me and you. And all this is very important. And afterwards, right, okay, so it says, when a person thinks about this, if he thinks, that's when he's Shema. Shema means to understand. It's a commandment to think about God. When you contemplate and you think about all this, that we are not separate from God. But on the other hand, we cannot in any way comprehend the essence of what God is, because we are creations of God. And God is creating us every moment. He's not only creating us every moment, he's creating every moment. The moments themselves are creations. Time is creation. Okay, we have no conception what this means, but when you start to think about it, maybe it's true, Maybe all the troubles in the world come from trying to figure out what reality is without putting God into the picture, which you can do. You can certainly figure it out, but finally you get to one point where it just sort of all crumbles apart. The whole thing just crumbles apart. Who is there really to say that life is better than death? Who is really to say that the Nazis weren't the good guys and the rest of the world were the bad guys? Who says, right? And so it ends up at fault. It's like these people who say that the world was created by the Big Bang or by evolution. So it works out okay until you get to the first thing. What was the first thing? The first little thing that was the beginning of evolution. Where did that evolve from? Well, listen, we got 99.99% figured out. So, someday we'll figure that out also. You're not going to figure it out. It doesn't work that way. So as soon as you start to realize, maybe there could be a creator, and maybe this creator really creates everything all the time, and maybe he's creating me, and maybe he's creating all being, and maybe he really does care. Maybe this what the Rebbe says is really right. Maybe, could be. So let's consider it. The Rebbe is saying it's not a maybe, it's a certainty. But at least you should take it into your mind that maybe it could be, and think about it. Consider it. Consider. And especially the big question you should have is, if this is really true, why don't I feel it? God is creating me. I don't feel nothing, right? I went to ask these big professors in the university. They say it's ridiculous. I read a lot of books about from Viktor Frankl. He said that Sigmund Freud said, as soon as a person starts to think about the meaning of his life, then it's a sign that he's sick. As soon as a person starts to think about, is there God, then it's a sign that it's a sickness. Religion is a neurosis. To think there's something bigger than you, there's not. So, I mean, you see what came out of that. It says, when a person thinks about this, Bavad, I certainly call Ish Yisrael, that every Jew will be Cheftzov Ratzon, his desire, Tamid, constantly, the Kalel, to be included in Hashem Echad. V'lo, and not, Sheyored Lamata, won't come down, B'makom Choshech, in a place of darkness. In other words, egotism. Omnam, but Zehu, this is Bechinas Ratzon. This is what we call, one second, let me make this bigger a little bit. This is what we call this is Bechinas Ratzon, running to God. When you think about how far away we are from God and how much we owe God and how real God is and how unreal we are and how God himself is creating us all the time from pure love, and that we have the ability to fulfill our responsibility to Hashem. We can actually partners be with him. So then we have a tremendous desire and longing for God. That's called Ratzah. That's love. But there has to be also shuv, coming back to the world. Like it says, the best type of light comes from darkness. What does God want? He wants to be God wants to be here in the world. He doesn't want us to leave the world. Success is not to be like Noah and to go into the ark and get saved. Right? I'm saved, I'm in the world. No, the goal is, that's why Abraham was the first Jew. Abraham was and especially Yitzchak, we'll see. And therefore, the commandment is, this commandment of loving God, who, a pirush, what does it mean? Behepech milamay lamata. There's another type. It means that you will love. It's a commandment from, I'm saying, it's the opposite from above to below. Like it says, Shem Shemayim mitahev al yudecha. So there's one meaning that you should love God, means that you should appreciate God. And there's another meaning that you should love God. Ve'ahavta means you should make God loved. You should make other people appreciate God. What does it mean? Lahamshich, to draw down revealed godliness from above to below. And that's what Abraham did. So Yitzchak was the thing of going from below to above. This is love like fire. It's gevura. From below to above, fire goes up. And Abraham's thing was love like water, from above to below. Abraham gave everything for free. He had a free hotel. Shenatan la'aravim, he gave into the Arabs lechol, to eat. And afterwards, Omar Layam, he said, you should know, lamima borachim, who do you bless? Kuli. In order that there should be revealed godliness below. Shagam Aravim, that even the Arabs, Yakiru, will recognize, the Bedouins or whatever, the wanderers in the desert, would recognize greatness of God. Calls all this, Ubechinas Avraham. That's the level of Abraham, drawing from above to below. Giving to others, showing God's love. Yitzchak was the opposite. Yitzchak was coming from below to above. He dug wells. Chofer be'erot, shehu bechinas giloi. This is revealing God from below to above. Mehelam giloi, from the concealment, commercial, like it says, a bore. like the example of a well. Asher Amayim, that the water Sham at first was concealed. By means of digging in the well, Nigla Amayim was revealed the water. Okay, so what did Abraham do? Abraham wanted to everyone to realize how good God is, how kind God is, how to appreciate, to appreciate God, to appreciate godliness, right? To be changed by God, to be affected by the awareness of how good God is and how close God is and how wonderful God is. That was Abraham's thing. Yitzchak's thing was change yourself, work on yourself. You have a responsibility. Make everyone aware how important they are to God and that they have a responsibility to God. They can repay God, so to speak. Abraham is making you appreciate how much you get. And Yitzchak was to give back. Hagam, even though that Abraham was also Chofer Baros, it says that also Abraham, if you look in the Torah, you'll see that Abraham also dug wells. But it says it says that the Pelishtim closed them up. Closed them. The Yitzchak Chafer Otam, and Yitzchak, he redug them. The Koralem Shemos, and he called them the names that his father called them. Kashemos, that his father called them. There's a difference. It says, in the pasuk, it says, V'kor lehem shemos, that Yitzchak called these wells names, kishemot, like the names that his father called them. This word names is written twice. It could have said that he called them the names his father gave. It doesn't say no. It says he called them the names like the names that his father gave. 2 times names. If you look in the Torah, it says this word names. It says that Yitzchak called them names is written with a vav. Shmot with a vav. And the names that Abraham gave is written also the same word, shmot, but it's written without a vav. That's called molei v'chaser. Molei v'chaser. In the Torah, there are certain words that are pronounced the same way. For instance, the example is mezuzot the mezuzah that's on your door. So sometimes mezuzot is written in the end with a vav, mezuzot, and sometimes the word mezuzot, same word, is written with no vav. You have to know that there is a vav there. There is a vav there. In the punctuation, it would be a little dot. A little dot. So on a dot, you don't write dots in mezuzah or the Torah. You don't write a dot. So the letter vav, o was a cholam. A cholam can be written 2 ways, either with a vav or just a little dot on the top to represent the vav. If it's a little dot, then when it's written in the Torah, it's written like this, lacking the vav. So it's lacking. So, okay, this is a practical importance, though. What's the practical importance? There's names with a vav and the names without a vav. Names with a vav, that's what Yitzchak did. Names that Abraham, that's without a vav. What's the difference? Harishon Malay, the first one is filled with a vav. The second is chaser. It's missing a vav. Lefi, because she'al yedei chafiro, by means of the digging of Yitzchak, lo nifsak, it did not stop anymore. Nevia, the vav shows on a drawing down of godliness. It didn't stop anymore. The digging, the nimshachim, the novim, hashesha midos, the 6 emotions that are called vav, 6 emotions to God, constant. Okay, therefore it's called Shemot, filled with vav. But the Shemot, when it says that Abraham dug the same wells, is that didn't last. Chaser vav, the fish satman Pelishtim, because the Pelishtim closed them up. Namely, yesh lechitzonium yinika behem. From the external forces can get you nurture from them. Maybe I'll give you an example. I'll make up an example. What's the difference? Let's say 2 people win the lottery. Right? Lottery is $10 million. $10 million. Great. Win the lottery. $10 million. One person, after about a month, he shoots all the money. His wife takes it and runs away. All of a sudden, he has all these new friends, and they trick him, and they take him, and they do this and that, and he loses all the money. The other one, he made a big preparation beforehand, right? He made a big preparation. He got himself a lawyer. He got himself an accountant. He read up on the subject. What happened? Why do the people that win the lottery, why did they fail? Right? And he realized he has to control himself. Now, when he wins the money, so now he says, well, I'm going to take this money. I'm going to buy myself 5 new Ferraris. And then I'm going to go down to the beach. And then I'm going to do all these thoughts. He says, these thoughts, I got to not pay attention to them. I have to not pay attention. But it's really hard. People hear that he won the money, say, hey, I want to invest. I got a sure thing for you to invest in. Well, it really seems to be sure. No, he doesn't listen to these thoughts because he worked on himself. That's the point. He dug down deep inside of himself and thought, listen, who am I really? Right? Am I really, is this $10 million is going to really change me, that I become a maniac and reveal that I really am a maniac? And the reason I'm not expressing this is because I don't have enough money. Or maybe I'm a good person and I'm going to use this money for good purposes. And maybe, so he makes preparations. That's the thing of Abraham and Yitzchak. Abraham is like giving everybody $1 million without preparations. Yitzchak's whole thing was making everybody prepare. And therefore, it says that the blessings that Abraham made, in this case, the Torah is speaking in terms of the wells, that they got closed up. But the blessings that Yitzchak brought down, because that was working from below to above, so the external forces didn't have so much of an effect on the godliness that Yitzchak drew into the world. And therefore, by means of the chafira, by means of the digging of these wells, who shemoed with the letter Vav. Well, Atid Lavo, here we go, in the future, when Mashiach comes, and Mashiach changes the world. And that's what the Lubavitcher Rebbe is doing now. That's what we're doing right now. We're learning that what Kativ, it says, Ki ato avinu. It says by Yitzchak that he is our father. The main joy and happiness will be from Yitzchak, from below to above. Asher b'chinazu, this ain't kates v'tachlis, there's no end. Which is not the case from Abraham, from below to above, from above to below. Yesh lo gavul, it has a limit. Right? Abraham's, okay, again, what's the whole purpose of the future? What are we waiting for Mashiach? What's going to be Mashiach? We're waiting on Mashiach. We're going crazy about Mashiach. Mashiach has to come. If you don't believe in Mashiach, you deny the whole Torah, right? You should be waiting for Mashiach. The Rebbe said you have to be waiting. What does it mean to believe and wait for the Mashiach? Every moment of your life. We're going to learn about that in a couple of minutes. Should be devoted and thinking about, why isn't Mashiach here? I feel so bad. I got to do something to bring Mashiach all the time. What's going to be when Mashiach comes? What's happening? What are we lacking? What's so bad? Huh? Mashiach is not here. And that's such a bad thing. So there's some people get sick, some people won't get sick. No. This is the whole point is we don't even know who we are. We have no idea who we are. We have no idea what God is. We don't know what good is. We don't know what reality is. We don't know what happiness is. We don't know. We don't know what real love is. You get a little glimpse of these things in the world. Now the world has come to the point they don't value life. Life has become like a bad thing. Right? All these LGBT and the woke and this is death. These are death marches, whatever you want to call it, the love of death. Right? Not having any more children, all these letters, LGBT, there's just ways to divert the power of procreation, so you won't have any children. And with the abortions, with the Hamas killing people that are enjoying it, burning people, that's incredible. And people like them. People like it, right? Because people don't know what good is anymore. The whole idea of Mashiach is that people will realize what a precious and amazing, beautiful gift life is, and the world is, every detail of the world. And most of all will reveal how precious is our potential to do good. We have every human being, infinite potential to do good. When you say a good word, when you do a good deed, even a good thought, we have no idea the good effect that this has in the world. All the good will come out from hiding, will come out from inside of us. Good that we didn't even know that we had. We didn't even know there was such a thing. We see what's going on in the world, right? You see that there's these big protests of people saying, get rid of the Jews. Hamas is right. They're good. right? Everybody's marching on the street. Nobody's marching for good. Let's, march for love. What are they marching for? Marching for, the woke movement, no more children. Let's get rid of those children. Let's have a good time. That's people march. Oh, that's a cause. There we got a cause, right? That's reality. That's death. It's simply death. It's the love of death. It's really crazy. Mashiach is going to come, and then first of all, this love of death is not going to be there anymore. Not going to. Which, by the way, I just want to say something. Just throw this in. You can throw it out also. We see that all these woke guys with the LGBTs and the Qs and the this and that, they're marching together with the Hamas against Israel. And the Hamas, they hate these guys. They throw them off they hate everybody that's not with them. Anyone who's not a Muslim, they hate, right? They'll kill them. That's their thing, is to kill them. Why do they kill all these Jews? Because they could. They could. The fact of the matter is, if they would have been Christians, they would have killed them also. They would have killed anybody. But Jews especially. The Jews especially, because the religion of Judaism, even if these people weren't religious, doesn't make any difference. They're Jews. Judaism is the love of life. It's the love of the Creator. That's what we're learning here. Ve'ahavta. It's the love of creation, the creation, not destruction. And all of these movements, that's what they have in common. They're uniting to destroy. Right? All these woke and LGBT and BLM and the whole thing is destroying. They have no positive plan whatsoever. Let us be free to destroy. No more police. Let us destroy things. And that's the best thing in the world, is when we just free to just kill and destroy and open the borders and open everything in the world. Right? And Hamas is the same thing. Either going to kill each other. They don't care. This insanity. Mashiach is going to bring the love of life, the appreciation of the Creator, and how the Creator is creating us, and everyone has this tremendous potential. Everyone is created in the image of God. That's what Mashiach is going to be. The whole world will flourish with meaning. We'll see the more people in the world, the better. Okay, and therefore it says Yitzchak, he is going to be our father, because Yitzchak, the whole thing is from below to above. The revelation, digging wells to see the potential of good in the world. I mean, you think about it, what it means to dig a well. What did he dug a well? He didn't go in the middle of Chicago and dug a well. He went in the middle of the Sahara Desert, where there's absolutely nothing over there. Maybe a couple of scorpions or something, whatever lives in the Sahara Desert, rattlesnakes or something. I don't really even know if those things can live there unless there's some sort of water. There must be some, I guess, in the really severe places of the spirit, nothing can grow whatsoever. There can't be even any scorpions. I think I'm not a big expert. So go to this place that's totally barren, and because of that, there's no trees, there's no anything. So it's bitter cold in the night and blazing hot in the daytime. And he digs a well, and all of a sudden there's a well with its water. Water starts to spurt up. And of course, in the beginning of it, it's just the water spurts up, and so it gets just, soaked into the ground. But it just keeps coming up. Water keeps coming up, and maybe he puts a little sort of a rim around it, and then a little area around the well starts to get irrigated, and something grows up. Something grows, and there grows up a plant, and that plant blocks the wind a little bit, and then it solidifies the earth. And then there goes another plant, and maybe a tree. Oh yeah, a tree. Whoever dreamed it, it's called an oasis. All of a sudden it grows up and it becomes more and more. He digs a well, and people realize that there's what to do over there, right? You can come and live. Guys, and he builds a house. And somebody else comes and builds a house. People are running from oppression or from whatever is from depression. They come, they build a house. And 2 people build out, 3 people build out. And somebody builds a grocery store because he wants this. And meanwhile, there's more water. And all of a sudden there comes a whole city, and it becomes populated. And why? Just because somebody dug a well. Without a well, there's no water, nothing will grow. That's what Yitzchak did. That's what Mashiach is going to do. He's going to take this barren, terrible world where it's just filled with scorpions and snakes, and some places even snakes and scorpions can't live there. And he's going to show that the meaning and the life inside of it, that's Yitzchak. Which is not the case of Abraham from above to below. That's limited, right? There's how much, let's say it rains in the desert, right? That's it, it's going to get soaked up. It's not going to last. But if there's a well and it comes from below to above, then the water was already deposited there. You're just revealing what was there from below to above. So that's an unlimited blessing. And therefore, in Abraham, it says 2 times, Avram, Avram. When God called to Abraham, Avram, Avram, at the Akedah, the first one was Hamshacha coming down to create Chachma and Bina, to create all the worlds of Atzilut. Elokei Avotenu, like we said. And the second one is coming down into Bria Yitzir and Asiya. Abraham is coming down. Abraham is coming, godliness coming, bringing godliness into the world. Did people appreciate it? No. But he did it. He started. Moshiach and Yitzchak, the aspect of Yitzchak, he inherited to us from below to above. You go to a place where there's a desert, there's no godliness at all, and you show that there really is. Bechinas ein kates v'tachlis. Most of the people in the world, they don't believe in themselves. They don't believe in themselves. That was a big problem with the blacks in America. They simply didn't believe in themselves. They had terrible leaders. As soon as some of them started getting educated and they went to university or whatever it was, and they started believing in themselves, then suddenly you started to realize that these people have a tremendous genius for and good and love and honesty and care, just like everybody else, and maybe in a different flavor or something like that. I don't know. But the idea is that people have to believe in themselves. They have to believe that they're creations of God, and God wants them to be here. That's Yitzchak, coming from below to above, from below to above. Bechinas ein kates v'tachlis. The reason I brought the blacks up is I was right sort of in the middle of the whole business, right? I went to the university in the 60s, and that's when things were all turning around, right? They were all turning around. And suddenly, all of a sudden, you start to see, that they had so much to contribute to mankind, right? It was incredible. It was an amazing thing. That's what I saw anyway. That's what I mean. And everybody is like that. The whole world is like that. Uman nitavo ikar tzchok. From where is the main happiness? Kigamiri, because we have learned mishamea mehav yahev, that from heaven they give, umashkel meshakalo shakli, and they don't take back. What does it mean? Look like this. Abraham is what God gives us, and Yitzchak is giving back to God. Like I said, giving back to God. So there's a Gemara. That talks like this. It says like this, that okay, first of all, it brings the example, not in the Gemara, another place. It brings an example. Once upon there was a king, and the king was very depressed, and they came jugglers, and the king said I saw these things, and someone brought a talking bird. The king had never seen a talking bird, right? The king lived in who knows, in France or someplace, and he never saw a talking bird before. Talking birds, they come from the jungle, whatever. And the guy brings a bird, and the bird says, "Hello, Your Honor, how are you? Shema Yisrael." He says, the king says, "Wow, this is incredible. How did you do that?" And the king is happy because it's a talking. Birds don't talk, and this bird talked. It's an unusual thing. So it says the same thing is when you see something really unusual that goes against nature, so it's enjoyable, it's happy. Because what's going to be in the future redemption? So it brings a story. There's 2 stories. There's Reb Shimon Bar Chalafta is one, and there's another one from Rav Hanin ben Dosa. Anyways, the story is that both of them had nagging wives, and their wives nagged them that they don't have enough money. So they went out into the field at different times, and a hand came out from heaven and gave them a leg of a chair. This is Rav Shimon Bar Chalafta. So it came out from heaven, and it gave him a golden leg of a table, a diamond leg of a table, whatever. So he goes home to his wife and he says, "Okay, dear, this is it. We're set for the rest of life. Now you don't have to yell at me anymore." She said, "Where did you get that from?" He's told her the whole story. "I went out from it." And she said, "You fool, give it back." He said, "What do you mean give it back?" He said, "Give it back. You're going to go to, after you die, you're going to go to heaven. And all the other wise men, all the other, the righteous people are going to have a leg, a table. They're going to sit at a table with 4 legs, and you're going to have 3 legs. Whatever Kabbalistic meaning this means, I don't know. But anyway, it was a real leg." So he said, "Okay." So he went out into the field, and he said, "Listen, God, I mean, you don't have a nagging wife. You don't know what it is. I do. So do me a favor, take the leg back. And a hand came out from heaven and took the leg back. So it says the second miracle that God took it back was bigger than the first miracle. Why? Because from heaven, God gives, but he doesn't take back. You might say that God takes back, people die. It's not that God takes them back. God just stops giving them life. Right? As you get a free gift, this is okay, up to now, that's a free gift. But God, from heaven, God gives, he doesn't take back. So that's the thing of Yitzchak. Yitzchak is giving God back, returning to God what we owe him, giving back. That's a big novelty to God. It's a novelty. It's like the bird that speaks, right? Speaking back. That when we give something back, that's the opposite of this. It says, Miahav, God is giving, that's God creates everything, something from nothing. But avodas Adam, but the service of, that's Abraham. But the service of man, this is exactly the opposite. And this is bittul yesh, that we give our egotism, we give it back to the Creator. We realize that we're just being created. That's happiness. Happiness is when you don't think about yourself. When you don't think about yourself, you're happy. When we think about how good God is and how great God is and how real God is and how much God loves us, so we think about God and we don't think about ourselves, that makes us happy. It's a tremendous pleasure. That's the idea of Yitzchak. What's this? Why is it written twice? Abraham, the Yitzchak was the son of Abraham. Abraham, well, they gave birth to Yitzchak. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Now let's learn the Devar Malchut.